Hey guys, what's up? This is ScherBR talking, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is about 7 heroes pickup summon Bokhohn. Bokhohn is a character that just got released because of Bokhohn attacks. We can farm for his S style after we finish the fight number 5, and we can summon for him as well if we want. This is just like the Platinum banners. All 7 heroes pick up summons. We'll just go to the Platinum pool after this finish. And all other pools in the future, you have chances of getting these characters as well. So they are not that type of limited time units where you have to summon for them as soon as possible. But Bokhohn is actually very interesting character. I will just click here on summon details so we can talk about him. One that looks for this character may think that he's a mage, but he's not. He's actually a club user, that it's a jammer that can debuff some status from the enemies. Let's just click here on trial so we can check him. Bokhohn has 3 very interesting skills. All of them can be useful. Crushing Blow is the first one, and it is C power with 4 BP cost that can be cycled, because you can reduce it to 3 BP via Awakening and just use it forever. But this is not his selling point. His selling point is the SDR debuff. He has Bone Crusher. We have this with Sophia and so many other characters. This is a very easy to find skill. We have B power instead of A power when comparing this to submission. It can be reduced 2 times, so 6 BP if you awaken it 2 times. You usually prefer most of the time submission because it has a better damage, and it's also used by martial artists that have high agility, so they can unleash this skill before the enemy. But Bokhohn also has a very high agility, and Bone Crusher, while a little weaker than submission, is still very good. It has the same chances of applying in SDR. It will depend on the intelligence of the character that you are using. Bokhohn is not so high on intelligence, but it's an average value that can help him produce more SDR debuffs. So Bone Crusher will be the most important thing for you to use him, and this reason why you're bringing Bokhohn. Crushing Blow, while very good, it's not the reason why people will be using Bokhohn. The last skill is called Nutcracker. Nutcracker is a skill that Genie already had. It's a skill that debuffs the endurance of the enemy. But we don't always need this. It's very hard to need the endurance debuff. You can use it on turn 2 if you really want, if you awaken it at least once, so you can start the fight by maybe unleashing all your damaging skills after the endurance debuff. That will depend on the enemy if it already has a very high endurance to help this work better. But it's a very high BP cost for a skill that is SS power. At least it's still SS power, so that will depend on the fight. But the selling point for Bokhohn is Bone Crusher aligned with one of his abilities. Let's just give a look on his abilities to understand. Enervate 3. SDR. This one is amazing because it has a chance of reducing the SDR from the enemy with any type of attack. It can be in a normal attack, any skill. It will have a chance to debuff the SDR from the enemy. So the second one is Inconspicuous, that makes him enter stealth with a medium effect for 4 turns. That is not so good in my opinion, but can help him stay alive on the fight, because you don't want your debuffer to die before he was able to reduce the SDR from the enemy to very low levels, because that's what makes you keeping alive on univerSe. SDR debuffers or intelligence debuffers or dexterity debuffers are very important to how this game works. And the last one is Hardy Defense, that will reduce the incoming damage when he is on full HP. This reduces by a lot, but will only reduce 1 full HP. It would depend on how you play the game. But sometimes it will save you from a single target nuke or an AoE nuke, because AoE will still hit you even if you are using stealth. Well, but the most important is Enervate 3. You have 2 chances of debuffing SDR if you use Bone Crusher, because Bone Crusher has its own chance alongside Enervate. So this guy is amazing for this type of stuff. This is the same thing that I do with my Christmas cat. My Christmas cat has the same setup, but she had to learn submission via her SS style, so she has a submission that has 2 chances of debuffing the SDR. The same thing as Bokhohn, but Bokhohn can do it by itself. That's what makes him incredible. Let's just give a look on his S style to check what he can learn. Okay, so this is SS Bokhohn that we can get by farming through Bokhohn attacks. He has access to Roll Beat, useless for his SS style. Then there's Seismic Strike that can be useful for fights where you need AoE. This is even better than Punishing Palm, has the same power, but with a chance of inflicting stun. Although it's a low chance, it can be useful in some situations. And there's also Rock Splitter that it's 13 BP instead of 14, depending on the content where you're facing. If the boss is weak to rock, that can be better than the other skill. So Bokhohn gets only better by inheritance, and it will depend. Most of the time you'll probably be getting Seismic Strike. Back to his SS style, let's just check his CP, because I want to talk about the status modifiers for his style. You see that he has very high STR and very high agility. Just like I said, he will just lose some utility because of martial artists being faster than him, but he's also very fast, so that he can inflict more debuffs, and has an acceptable endurance, and the intelligence doesn't seem to be so high, but it should probably be enough to inflict above average results with STR debuff. So this was Bokkon. I think he's a pretty amazing character, very useful, because we really need more STR debuffers. The problem is that he competes with submission users, and if you already have submission with some characters like me, I have Christmas Cat, I can't wait to I can get Bokhohn in the future, and maybe run Christmas Cat alongside Bokhohn for very amazing results. Next one is Myriam. In my opinion, she's not so good because, well, she tries to bring single target but in AoE, but in the wrong order. She starts with a cheap single target that barely does damage, and then she goes through Flaming Naga, another single target that is not so good, lower power because of critical damage against frogs, and then the last skill is Bird of Flame, that it's just an AoE with a very high BP cost. That's very unlikely for you to use this in some situations. It will really depend on the characters that you're using, the order of your attacks, and right now in the game this type of skill are useless. So Myriam can only inherits one skill from her S style: Fireball, Flame Whip, and Firestorm. And Flame Whip and Firestorm are actually good spells in my opinion. Flame Whip can inflict paralyze with a medium chance. It's C power with 7 BP. It's a good use of both power and BP cost. It can be reduced to 5. It's okay for some content, especially Zui Coliseum if you are thinking about something like that, but not the current one. Future content that we have chances of inflicting paralyze. And Firestorm is a cheap AoE spell, not so cheap, but it's a mid-range. We have C power with 11 BP, can be reduced to 9. Both spells are more useful than the spells we have for SS Myriam. So this means that she is not exactly on par with most other SS styles. Unfortunately, Blue and Kongming are way better than her in my opinion. So I will just show you guys a little more about her passives. Let's just go here on style details, abilities. She has Fired Up 3, so a little more power. Hard Wallop 3 increases her damage when she's full HP. So she is better to clear some waves. If you can plan the attack order, she can use Firestorm, so she can open with that spell. She will keep being on full HP if it's only one wave. If it's 3 waves of enemies, I don't know if she will keep up because she doesn't have any cheap AoE spell. So you see, she has a very bad combination of skills, and in my opinion she's not worth. Okay, let's just go to the next one. You have Shinyuan, and Shinyuan is just a descendant of Kongming. So you have to think about Shinyuan thinking about Kongming. He has 3 spells, but only one of them are different in my opinion. We already saw too many wildfires and Firestorm. We have Power Surge, and Power Surge is a buff that increases the SCR with a small effect. But I don't think this is so interesting as you may think. Maybe if you are using a squad that you have only 2 or 1 damage dealers and then they are based on SDR, of course, you can use this. But if you are using a squad with 3 or 4 damage dealers, using a buff will actually not be so interesting, because you could stand and just use another skill with a damage skill with your Kongming instead of just wasting this turn. Usually it's for 4 turns, and simply because it's a small effect, it's not so interesting. We will receive buffs in the future that can affect the whole squad. This one is still a prototype of buff skill, so I don't think it's so interesting. But he has access to Wildfire. Firestorm, it's already accessible by Kongming, and Wildfire is actually interesting because it's D power. You see, a Firestorm is C. Wildfire is D because it has an access to a critical damage to undead. But if the enemy is weak to sun and not fire, Wildfire can come into hand depending on the stage you are. If you are farming and you want AoE spells, that can be useful. But Shinyuan himself, it's not so interesting. Let's just check his abilities. They are awful. He increases his style experience. Well, useless. There's always other characters that can do that as well. We have a Painful Lesson that when he's attacking he covers BP. Not interesting as well. And increased damage on critical HP. Well, you don't have to rely on this type of stuff with a mage. So that goes for Shinyuan, and he can at least teach either Power Surge or Wildfire to your Kongming. But no rush in trying to get in this character. Next one is Nomad Fatima, and this character is in a strange position. She only has this style, a style. She doesn't have any other style in the Japanese version so far, so she's a bow user, where she barely has competition because this game doesn't have many. But even then, she barely has damage. You see that the first one is aimed shot, 3 BP, E damage, terrible. And there's Beast Slayer that can be used with some other characters, but not herself, that deals critical damage to beasts. We have lots of beasts in this game. And the last one is Quick Knock. It's a mid-tier skill, actually. It's not exactly a third slot skill, because most of the third slot skills has at least A power. She has a B power with her third skill, so I don't believe this gives any difference into this character. She's only useful for you to farm gems out of her because of HP Dark Souls. Sadly, this is the complete truth. So guys, I think this better is not so worth summoning for, even though we have this incredible Bokhohn. You can get him in the future. Maybe if you are spending gems on the game, if you are purchasing, maybe then summoning for Bokhohn can be useful if you do not have like too strong STR debuffers. If you didn't get Christmas Cat, that means that you have more reasons to have Bokhohn, because they both compete between themselves as characters that can debuff 2 times the STR on the same turn. But for now, I don't think it's so good to summon for him, because we have way too many future characters and future banners to summon for, and maybe it's time to save gems. Well, this is my opinion. What's yours? Please say here in the comments. And well, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe if you still haven't, and you can help this channel by either using Patreon, PayPal, or the coffee buttons here on the description of the video, and we see each other on the next one. Bye.